Namaskaram. This is Sagarika, and I'm just going to be talking about my inner engineering experience today. I have completed 1 year of doing Shambavi Mahamudra Kriya every day for a year, and without missing a day. And I just thought I'd make a video to sort of look back and see how I've changed and how everything around me has changed in the past 1 year. I'll start from the very beginning, and before I go into things, I want everybody to know that this is just my experience, and all of our experiences will most probably be different, and I do not intend to limit your possibility or mine in any way by stating my experience, and it will most probably be different and experienced in a different way in different people. So to start from the beginning, pretty much before I went for my initiation, I was an atheist, and that was working out pretty well for me. And I was at a stage in my life where I felt like I had everything figured out. I was doing great, had a good set of friends around me. I was doing very good academically, and in many ways I was fine. I did have some health issues before that, which really did affect me in many ways, but I've always been very much into self-growth and working on myself, reading books and everything. So I had done a lot of self-work by that time, so I felt like I was at a good place in life, and that was going on for the longest time. And in between, I have been very close to someone who has also been doing Isha practices for the longest time, and I always respected this person a lot because of the determination with which he was doing the practices. And even though I was not into it, I would just respect it, because somebody putting so much effort into their self-growth was very attractive to me just in general. I respected people a lot when they did that, and I used to see the sheer intensity with which this person was doing his practices, and that always sort of inspired me in some way. Maybe not to do inner engineering, because even though he was sort of telling me to do it for the longest time, I never went for it because I didn't feel the need to. I felt like I was doing great by myself, and somehow I got into it. I started, I just did it simply, and I did the 7 steps with Sadhguru, and I just watched it. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. It didn't seem practical because I was thinking with my logical mind, and I just stopped. I didn't go ahead and do the inner engineering completion where Shambavi Mahamudra Kriya is transmitted. I didn't do that. I just did the 7 steps because at that time it was different. Like it was 7 steps and then the completion, not like how it is programmed now. So I just did that, and there was a big gap, and I was doing fine by myself. I was in my ignorance, and I was pretty happy with how things were. I was very much swept away by my emotions, very much swept away by my likes, dislikes, desires in life, goals, all of these things, like a pretty normal person, honestly. And yeah, so fast forward to 2023 July. That was literally 1 month before I left India to come to Canada. So this was literally like a month before I was moving to come here. And during that time, it was a pretty emotional time for me because I was leaving everybody behind and everything behind, my family, friends, and everything, literally, to move to another country to pursue my studies and all that. And during that time, for some reason, I don't know, I just kept having this feeling like I have done everything that I possibly could in terms of self-improvement in my life, and I felt like something was sort of missing in a way that I felt like I had done everything, and I feel like there should be something more to life. Like, is this all? Like, have I sort of mastered whatever I need to? Like, isn't there more to whatever, I felt like I'd cracked the code, honestly, and I was feeling like there should be something more that I could do about it. And that is sort of what pushed me into it. And it was a very spontaneous decision. I did not plan it at all. I saw that there was an inner engineering in-person program happening in Bangalore at that time, and I just enrolled for it, and I just went for it. But I made sure that I was an atheist, so I was pretty confident with my views and my beliefs at that time. I sort of thought it was a religious thing, so I did have some hesitation, but I just went with an open mind. I felt like that is the least I could do going into the process, so I went with an open mind, and those 3 days were very intense physically as well, because even though I was doing some Pilates and all that physically, like I did not do any yoga, and I was not sitting in the same place for so long, so many hours, so it was physically intense for sure. And it was a lot of getting up early in the morning, especially on the day of the initiation, so that I could make it on time, because it was a pretty long ride all the way to the center. And especially on the day of initiation, I think it was a very intense day. And even the talks and everything that happened, I started feeling like this has nothing to do with religion at all. A lot of it made sense to me, because I was very much still in touch with my logical mind at that time. I was sort of, analyzing everything that was being taught. And on the day of initiation, I don't want to go into what happened and everything for obvious reasons, but I could definitely feel like something very deep inside me was touched, like I don't know how to explain it. And I remember just tears just flowing out of my eyes, and I was just sitting there, and the process was happening, and I never really experienced such an intense moment in my life up until that day, because everything was on a superficial level, I think, but that day I don't know what happened. It was honestly, and but in some way, I don't know how, I sort of knew deep down that I will keep this up. I will keep up this practice, I knew I would for some reason. I don't know how. I don't know if it was a determination, but lately I felt like there were so many things happened that even I feel like determination might have been a hurdle, but for some reason I've been doing my sadhana every day without missing a day. I feel like definitely different forces might have contributed to that, but it was a beautiful day on my initiation. I remember going back home, and I just couldn't stop crying the whole time. And since then I kept up my sadhana, and this was particularly a difficult time, because it was a lot was happening. I was packing, shopping, saying bye to a lot of people I've loved. Some fear as well, because I'm moving to a different country, and I'll have to look for part-time jobs and good housing, and safety and whatnot. So many factors coming up, and I was just a bit worried about all that. But even during that time, I remember I wasn't particularly affected by anything, because all my focus was quite literally it was only on the practice I was doing. And I just made it work effortlessly, because during the mandala period, it was like I had to be on an empty stomach for quite a lot of time during the day, and doing it twice a day, no matter where I was traveling, who I was meeting. I was able to just I just made it work effortlessly, because that is the amount of focus I had put into this, that everything else that was happening in my life, no matter how significant, it just didn't really matter as much. It's like this was the only focus, and everything else was just happening. That is how it was for the longest time. And I remember even when I was traveling, coming to Canada, like I was doing my sadhana even at the airport lounge. I did my sadhana in the literally while I was flying as well, on the plane. I was nervous at first, because it was the first time I was doing my sadhana in a public place. It was a bit uncomfortable, but I still did it. I didn't really care about how I was feeling. I just did it, and it was spectacular. And that way I just came settled down here. It's been like a year now again, and that kept happening. So sadhana was always on. And to talk about the different stages that I sort of went through over the past 1 year is just really crazy, because there's so much happened, and it's like I'm living life on fast forward, like so much intensity just coming up in me and in my life, bouts of intensity, bouts of confusion and all that. And So it was just happening. Like I didn't really worry about what was happening here once I moved, because again my full focus was just on my sadhana, on my spiritual process. I didn't really care if I will get a part-time job or if I'll be fine, if I'll be able to take care of myself and all that, because this was the only thing that really mattered to me. So I didn't really care about anything else at that time. But somehow the best part is I was just taken care of. I don't know if it was grace or if it was because I was I sort of planned everything to, in a way, I did not just leave everything off. Like I also made sure that I was putting in some effort to sort of get a job and take care of myself and all that. But I sort of I know deep down that there was a big role that was being played, especially Devi's grace was always there, especially after I started my Devi sadhana, and I'm coming to that. So things were just happening, and when I started feeling bouts of confusion, when I just sort of like went even fast, was I started Devi sadhana around Navratri, and I sat through I think it was a 7-day thing where they taught us how to do Devi sadhana and everything. I went through the Navratri sadhana, and since that day I started doing Devi sadhana very intensely. And in the very beginning I was doing Achala Arpanam and Arati, Devi Stuti and everything, the whole thing I was doing. And for the longest time it was as if I just could not sit through Devi sadhana without crying and crying. Like there was so much crying, because not because of any emotions being involved, but just because I was so overwhelmed by the presence that I was just crying. Like I think that is one thing that I've done a lot in the past 1 year, just crying, not out of pain or anything. Most of the time it's not been because of that. It's been because of how deeply I felt like whatever was happening was so overwhelming, and I didn't there was no way I could express myself, be it the devotion or whatever it may be. It was just like just so much crying, honestly. And once I started Devi sadhana, that is when I started experiencing a lot of confusion in my life, because I was questioning my reality constantly. Because of the sadhana I was doing, it was bringing up a lot of I was like in a war within myself and with whatever was happening outside as well, because I was not able to understand like what am I doing, and I was very hard on myself. I was constantly questioning myself, questioning things around me, and getting into conflicts, confusion. I remember one point of time where I started resenting Sadhguru as well, because only after I started doing the practice I'm seeing things in a different way, and I'm not able to accept it, because there's so much strong karma associated with the values and the desires that I've had from before, that now that I'm trying to see things differently, like it's like my karma is sort of pulling me back to seeing things the same way. So this period of time was very, very difficult for me, because there was literally so much confusion and pain all coming up at the same time. Luckily I had people with me. Like I was also constantly volunteering whenever I could. Like I would never miss a chance to volunteer and even be with the community, with other Isha meditators, because I feel like it's a powerful collective energy that comes up when people get together. Especially I would always volunteer for the inner engineering programs especially on the day of initiation, because it's I get to go through the initiation again, and that was such a powerful experience every time. These things were what sort of helped me stay on the path, no matter how much difficulty and pain and confusion was coming up. And I also had people around me who were doing their sadhana intensely, and they always reminded me, just keep going. Like no matter what happens, it'll be fine. Just keep doing your sadhana. No matter how much confusion or pain you're probably experiencing. And they told me it's because all your karma is burning up since you started doing your sadhana, and that usually happens once you start doing your sadhana. And that was a very difficult time. I remember sometimes I couldn't even finish my sadhana. I couldn't even do my sadhana without crying, because I would do it crying sometimes, once or twice, because of the sort of confusion and pain I would be in. And But yeah, as I kept doing it, I started also sort of imbibing the inner engineering crash course in my life, and I think that made a lot of difference because it started creating a distance between myself and my mind and my body. So that sort of made things much more calmer. But one important thing that I want to tell you all is, no matter what was happening, I felt like it was just happening on a superficial level, because I felt very much established within myself. On a deeper level, I feel like that was not at all shaking, no matter what was happening on the outside. And things around me were changing too. Like even though I was pretty open to everyone, I felt like in a way I became very selective about the kind of people I have around me, what I eat, what I do on a daily basis, because everything was sort of, my sadhana and my spiritual life was sort of influencing other areas of my life as well. So there were times where I was just very isolated, especially since I'm in a different country, being away from family and my friends back home. Barely had like a couple of people here that I could like, you know, actually be myself with, and you know, especially one person that I could actually talk about spiritual stuff with, and also feel like they relate to it and I could relate to them as well. So I feel like that also helped, being in touch with Isha meditators, having that sort of having someone who can relate and who could understand what was happening. Because other people, if they heard whatever I was talking, I feel like most of the time they thought I've either lost my mind or you know, I'm into some occult stuff. It was very funny, but I feel like it's not that easy, because even I could myself not understand what was happening. Most of the time I didn't know. And I also started realizing that I don't know anything, like basically in life. Whatever I've learned all these years was like, it was this whole process of going from untruth to truth, and it's still, that is what is happening. I'm not saying I've fully sort of unlearned everything. It's a process, it's happening on a daily basis. And so yeah, then that has been happening lately. And I definitely see that my mental resistance has increased. I've become more resilient mentally and physically as well, because I used to get bothered by every small physical issue, pain, whatever was happening. It would affect me a lot. And now it's like, even if there's any health issue, and first of all, I don't really fall sick anymore because of how strong my immunity has become because of doing Shambavi every day. My immunity is like been the strongest, because before I used to fall sick like pretty often, trust me. And even my stomach issues, like I was very prone to them. But now, after I've been doing Shambhavi, it's like my stomach is like strong as hell. And even mentally and physically, I feel more stable. Like in no way, no matter what's happening on the inside, I feel like the sense of stability is always there within me. I think that is what is most astonishing. And also, like, my perception has just changed on many things, because I used to have very strong desires, like I want this kind of person, I want to have this kind of a life. And now that just doesn't make sense to me, because yes, to an extent, it's not that I do not have any desires, I do, but that sense of associating my happiness and my value based on these things has sort of gone. For some reason, it's not there. Like, if anything, now in the last couple of months, one thing that I've noticed is there has been an unwavering sort of focus or drive towards like what I want out of my life spiritually. Like, that is the only thing I care about, and every other aspect of my life, be it career, or be it relationships, or anything else, is all just sort of pushing me further. It is just to support what sort of goal I have ultimately in my spiritual life. That unwavering focus has really made things much easier, because that friction has reduced. The friction that was sort of stopping me from doing whatever I wanted, that friction has definitely come down. And now I feel like I'm able to like move forward much more fast and with less friction and pain and confusion, because there was a time when I sort of just surrendered myself. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to fight this process anymore. And this actually happened on this particular day when I had like an out of body experience. And it was the 4th day of Ananda Alai program, which I was doing online, and I don't want to go into very specifics of this, but basically it got to a point where Sadhguru was walking us through a certain meditation process, and I was just really tired that day, and my body was hurting because I was sitting there for like, I don't know, 2-3 hours, I think. My physical body was hurting a lot sitting so long, and I had a very tiring day with work and studying and everything. And but I was just sitting through the process. I was very much open to it, and I was just sitting there, no matter what was happening with my body or mind, I was just ignoring it. And during the process, I don't know, something happened, and I sort of couldn't control my body anymore. Like I was trying to move my hands, and my hands were not moving. They were just right up in the air, and it was like Sadhguru was holding both the hands. Like I know I sound crazy, but you have to trust me on this. My mind was just blown. Like the whole time I was thinking, like my logical mind was trying to make sense out of it. I was like, what is happening? Why am I not able to move my hands? Like I'm literally trying so hard to move my hands, but they're just like up like this in the air, and I'm not able to bring them down. I was only able to bring them down once the meditation process ended, and that is the craziest part. I was very aware of what was happening mentally. Like I was very aware, and I could hear people from my housemates sort of banging on my door because I was crying hysterically because I was in shock. I was in so much shock that I couldn't believe what was happening with my mind, with my hands and my body, that I was just crying and crying and crying. I was so overwhelmed, and there was like I don't know if it was devotion or overwhelming feeling, because of how unbelievable it was, whatever was happening. And that just really shut me up in many ways. After that day, after experiencing that, I felt like there's just more to what is coming, and it sort of helped me orient myself more, because that was one of the most unbelievable experience that I've had. And everybody was worried outside, and they were just banging on the door because of how much I was crying. And yeah, but that was like an intense day for me, that experience. I remember telling it to my mom, and she freaked out, and even like my housemates and everyone. And yeah, since that day, I think I sort of oriented myself. It sort of woke me up, that experience. I realized there's no time to waste. There's no time to waste now, and I got to go all in. And that's when I stopped playing this game where I have one foot on this side and one foot on this side. I was like, I put both on this side, and I'm like, okay, I'm all in. And since that day, that unwavering focus towards my spiritual goal, that has completely come in now. I feel like that is the center of my central aspect of my life at this point. This has definitely made things much easier for me. And yeah, this is definitely one main thing I would tell, because I was always very hard on myself. I would say from the very beginning, I would just keep pushing myself, no matter what was happening. Even though I was making progress, it's like I would not acknowledge the progress that I was making, because I felt like if I acknowledge the progress, I will just stop myself, or I will just sort of be too satisfied, and I will just sort of pick up slack. So I just kept pushing myself, no matter how much or what was happening around me. So I would call it madness. Actually, I would definitely call it madness, whatever was happening with me and the way I sort of responded to all of these things. But yeah, I just love this how I am right now, not very much swayed by my emotions. I would not say that I'm entirely not, but I would say majority of the times I'm not. And even if I do get swayed, I feel like I'm very much conscious about what's happening and what I'm doing. So that sense of awareness is always there, no matter in terms of what I'm doing, what's happening within me, and definitely able to experience life more fully. And I'm also looking forward to how things go from here onwards. And I am very happy that I've kept up my practice no matter what happens, because on some days, honestly, I'm so tired and there's no time at all during my day to even do the practice, but I somehow make time for it and I just do it no matter what the time is. And that I wouldn't take credit for that. I definitely feel like, it was like, I definitely think he was always there with me that way, like I didn't have to worry about many things in life, and I always felt like I had this energy support from him. So yeah, I'm very grateful, and I'm looking forward to doing Shunya. Not sure when, but I know it'll happen when the time is right. And I would also say I got a few questions from a few of my followers. I would definitely say if you're moving abroad, it's better to do get initiated or do any sort of programs that you have to do from Isha back home in India if you're moving abroad, because it's more expensive here. I feel like it'll be much easier to do it when you're still in India rather than coming and doing it abroad. Yeah, that was one of the main questions, I think, because other than that, I would say what really pushed me to do my practice every day was the fact that is how badly I wanted to do it, because that is how badly I've oriented myself with the goal. Because having a guru who is alive and who is around us and who is supporting us all the time, that is sort of a once in a lifetime opportunity for me. And I would definitely not want to waste this opportunity and waste his energies as well. So that is one of the reasons that I pushed myself, and also to sort of have a better impact on the life around me, and to just experience life in a better way with less friction and with less pain, and simply getting bogged down by all the unwanted, unnecessary desires, likes and dislikes, and being swayed by emotions and all that. This feels much freer for me to just go through life, just being a piece of life, like how I feel now. And I would say it's definitely a process, and I'm a different person every day, so I wouldn't say this is how I feel all the time, but majority of the time I can definitely tell you that it's been a very pleasant process, at least for the last few months, after all the pain and confusion sort of subsided, because I oriented myself like this. So yeah, I think this is pretty much what my experience has been, and I'm open to answering any other questions that there might be. And I only wish that all of us continue doing our sadhana every day, no matter what happens in our life. And that is the only thing that, one of the main things we can do, to pretty much only thing we have to do. So I don't see it as a difficult thing at all. And I really thank everyone. I'm very grateful to all the Isha meditators around me, and the Sadhguru and to Inner Engineering, for making me see life in a different way, to see things in a way that I never dreamed that they would be this way. I could live life in this manner. So yeah.